This is the post-build customization for the Messer Type-F01. For this model, this only includes the water slide decal application. Now I'll be doing the applying of the water slide decals. Now, since this is an HG kit, especially part of the Universal Century line, decals normally are not considered when putting out the instructions or designing the figure. So in the manual, there isn't going to be any kind of guide that tells you where decals, or what sometimes are called marks, would go on the kit. Now, there are some HG kits out there that do have included decals. Normally they're stickers, and then in those cases they would include a diagram where to apply them. But this one did not, because it didn't have any stickers or decals. So what I did is I went ahead and I bought a third-party water slide decals. These happen to be from G-Rework, which is one of the best third-party ones out there. They tend to do the model kits that Bandai doesn't do. Sometimes we'll even do the ones that Bandai did do, or it might be a case where they did it and then Bandai realized that people wanted it, and then they released the water slide decals as well. But this company does a really good job with it. Unfortunately, with this kit, this company did not provide a guide for where the decals are supposed to go. Many times they do, but in this case they didn't. But they do provide, as you can see in the upper right-hand corner or left-hand corner, they do provide photos of the decals applied to the finished kit. So what I'm going to have to do with this one is there's a series of photos, different angles, different sides, all this kind of stuff. This happens to be just the front. And what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to look through the photos and figure out where these go. Now I'll be looking at them on a different screen. They're much bigger than what you guys are going to see. I did put them up in the corner just so you can see what I'm going through, what I'm doing. And as you can see, as I zoom in and out, it will show. And even as I move throughout there, the upper corner I'll keep there because it won't be in the way of the water decal applying, because I'll be doing that mostly right in front. Now, I did learn an awful lot with the very first kit that I did the water slides on. So I'll be using those newer techniques that I discovered. One is that using a Q-tip, whether it be, a regular round soft or these style, these more detail, the pointy ones, is that since these absorb the liquid, it makes it difficult to use these to move the decals into place once they're put on the model. So what I've done is I went out and I just bought some of these old style wooden cuticle sticks that you can find at basically any store for a buck, maybe a buck for a package of 10 or 12 of them. And this worked really, really well. Able to get them off the backing really well, and then once it was there, I can move them into place either with the slanted side or the pointed side. Now, I know that many times rubber is used, so I just got these today, so I'm going to try this out. This is also a cuticle pusher. That's what it's designed for, but it's got a rubber end, which is softer and less likely to do any damage if I happen to hit the decal wrong. With this other one, you just want to make sure that you're moving it at the edges, not necessarily in the middle. So I wanted to try this out and see how that worked. Some of these decals are going to go on pieces, because what I found is that it's not always easy to put the decals when everything's together, so you're going to be taking the pieces off to put the decals on. And when you get to an individual piece, it may not sit properly where you need it to be in order to put the decal on. You essentially need a third hand to hold the piece. And what I've done is I've got these that I use for painting to hold the pieces so I can paint where it needs to. This is just an alligator clip. It doesn't have the rubber pieces on it, so I can put this on an area, clip this to the piece that I'm working with, and then essentially the weight of this and the length of this will keep it so that the piece stays oriented where I want it to and won't move around and stuff like that. So these work really, really well. Sometimes for really places where I really need to put it somewhere, like it might be at the top and I couldn't get a place to clip it to. This is my stand that I use for drying pieces on, and a couple times I just put this right on. So these things go together essentially, and I just use my painting tools to do the decal application. And I still will be using, I find it much better with the pointed ones. I'll be using this to absorb the excess fluid around the decal, because I did discover, especially since this is an HD kit and we're working with very, very small, let me get this up here, we can have some very small individual decals that we're working with. I don't know if you can see the edges there. These are so small that the actual tension of the water can prevent it from coming off the backing. So you got to kind of absorb the water off of that just to get it off the backing. Or if there's too much water on the piece where you're trying to manipulate it, because we'll be using the setter and the softener. And the setter, I don't think that showed. The drops that this might be too big, so in order to get it to move in the right place, I need to absorb some of that excess in order just to move it. Otherwise, I'll put it in place, and then the surface tension of the drop of liquid will move it out again. So this is only because these are HG kits and some of these decals are super small. But and the other important thing is that you want warm water. What I've got here, and I tried it multiple ways, but if I didn't have it this way, the water would cool off way too fast. Even in a cup like this that I'm using here, it would cool off within about 20-30 minutes. And the last thing you want is cold water, because it takes forever for it to activate the decal and be able to remove it from here. It also, with the colder water, it actually makes the decals more subject to be damaged when moving them around. It's just the way it is. So what I've got here is I've got a typical coffee cup, ceramic, filled with water. I heated the water up before putting it in. I essentially did about a cup to a cup and a half of water and just heated it in my microwave for a minute. That got it at the right temperature, because you're really looking for about 120, 130 degrees, essentially tap water temperature. I don't use my tap water because I got too much chlorine in it and I don't want to affect anything. So what I've used is, you can either use filtered water or, if you have that issue, filtered water or distilled water. I make a lot of distilled water anyway. So I heated that up, put it in here, and then I got this cup warmer thing, and I keep it at 130 degrees. This has a really good control over the temperature, and that keeps the water nice and warm. And keeping it warm like this, basically I just need to soak these decals for about 5 to 10 seconds, depending upon the size. Whereas before, once it starts cooling down, it might take 15 to 30 seconds to get it to where you can even start manipulating the decal. But and I've also got just this little tiny place, because what's going to happen is you're not necessarily going to be able to put these decals on in order, because you need to work with a piece at a time. And if you have a piece that needs decals on two opposing sides, you're going to need to wait for the decal to dry on one side before you flip it over and you apply it to the other side. Otherwise, the decal that hasn't dried will probably rub off. So you're going to be jumping around this sheet no matter what the number sequence is. So I use this so that when I have to cut things apart and I wind up with these little tiny pieces, little tiny decals with backings, I can just plop it right in there and it won't get lost. So, and I have, small pair of scissors so I can do the cutting and stuff like that. So this is going to be a little bit different because I'm going to have to look at the pictures, figure out what I need to do, where the decals are on here. So it might take a little bit longer, but you'll be able to follow along with everything that I'm working with. And I normally keep a paper towel that I do the actual work on, because then I can use this to remove the excess water from the backing once I take it out. And this right here is where I just collect all the backings because they're going to be wet, and just leave them there. So let's get right on with it. you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please do give it a thumbs up. That really does help out the channel. And if you would like to see more like this, please go ahead and subscribe and click the notification bell. If you do have some time, I would really appreciate it if you could watch one of the videos that are popping up around my head.